You're about to do something huge. Right here, right now, everything you've been doing is leading up to this very moment. But all of a sudden, your brain chimes in, and it's not meant to help you. You start thinking, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. What if somebody figures out I'm a fraud? This, my friend, is imposter syndrome. And if you've ever experienced it, it doesn't mean you're broken or stupid or incompetent. It simply means you're human. Even the most successful and competent people on the planet experience imposter syndrome. Think elite professional athletes. Think professional performers. Think CEOs and founders of these massive companies. They all struggle with it too. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why your brain creates imposter syndrome, what it originated from, and the 3 mental models that I use and many other people have used as well, I'm sure, to navigate this and best use imposter syndrome to your advantage. So first, we gotta understand where imposter syndrome comes from. And we gotta go way back. For most of human history, humans lived in small tribes of a few dozen people. Your rank in the group determined your access to food, access to water, access to resources for shelter, mates, etc., etc. The people who knew where they stood within the hierarchy, within the tribe, they stood a very good chance of survival, even if they were a little bit lower, because they knew their place and they knew what they needed to do in order to get the other people who were perhaps higher up than them in the hierarchy to support them. But the people who were not aware of their social standing, the people who went against the tribe, they were marginalized or they were taken advantage of or even outcasted from the tribe. And in those days, if you were outcasted, if you were treated as somebody who wasn't within the group, then your survival was at stake. Challenging the wrong person could get you killed. Overestimating your hunting ability and failing publicly could cost you your status. Claiming more resources than your rank warranted could turn the entire tribe against you. So to some degree, imposter syndrome or limiting beliefs and some sort of self-doubt in this context actually made sense. It was used as a social calibration tool. This didn't mean you were weak. It meant you were using your intelligence and your wits to increase the likelihood of you surviving and being accepted within the tribe. This was something that essentially kept your behaviors in check and ensured that there was cohesion between you and other members of the group, which would promote better survival for everybody. Your brain essentially learned this. Before you step up, make sure you belong here. Before you claim this, make sure you've earned it. Before you act, make sure you're not going to get yourself killed. That was useful. That kept people alive. And here's where things get very interesting. So back in those times, bad outcomes were far more consequential than good outcomes. A failed hunt could mean starvation. Poor navigation could mean freezing in the winter. A wrong alliance could mean death. Every decision you made was so impactful. As a result, the brain evolved to pay attention more so to threats and negativity as opposed to opportunities. This is what psychologists call the negativity bias. And this bias is still very persistent within our lives to this day. Because after all, the world has changed so much, but our brains are the same. Most of the threats we experience on a day-to-day basis don't actually threaten our survival. They threaten our psychology, they threaten our emotions, they threaten our ego. And that's vastly different. But to your nervous system, they feel the same. This is why you experience imposter syndrome when you're about to do something that's actually beneficial for you, something that's a little beyond your comfort zone. Because your nervous system thinks taking action on that thing that's a little beyond your comfort zone is actually threatening to your physical survival, even though it's not the case. And as a result, we experience this imposter syndrome and these limiting beliefs much more so than we should. And the modern world has made this even worse. Because now, for the first time in history, we can see what everybody's doing online. We see social media feeds of people's wins, all their accomplishments, all the places they're traveling to, and we compare ourselves to these people because we see what they're doing, that thin slice of their life, because after all, what we see on social media is just a very small portion of what somebody's actually doing on a day-to-day basis. We compare ourselves to them and we think, wow, I'm not as good as them. I don't have what they have. They're way better than me. And this feeds into the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk and the imposter syndrome we experience on a day-to-day basis. We see the highlight reels of people we've never met, people we will never meet in our entire lives, and we think, yeah, they're just better than I am. Or, yeah, they're just smarter than I am. I could never do that. Comparison leads to negative thoughts. Negative thoughts lead to negative self-talk. Negative self-talk creates limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs shape the everyday actions that keep you feeling stuck in place. So, as you can see, imposter syndrome is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of incompetence. It's simply an ancient survival mechanism that is rooted deeply within your nervous system. And we just so happen to be living in times where experiencing this imposter syndrome is more common than ever before. What once kept your ancestors alive thousands of years back is now holding you back. But now that you understand this, it's very simple to accept the fact that most limiting beliefs, most forms of imposter syndrome don't make logical sense. Because as I mentioned, most of the threats we experience on a day-to-day basis don't directly threaten our survival. They threaten our psychology, our emotions, our ego. Things that feel gigantic, things that feel like they would kill us in a sense, but in reality, it's not the case. The pitch meeting isn't going to get you exiled. The creative project isn't going to cost you your life. The difficult conversation isn't going to end your existence. Even if you do any of those things and you fail, you're still going to survive. You can walk through at the end and be like, well, that sucked. I wish it went the other way, but I'm here. I learned a lesson from it, and now I'm less scared to do the same thing moving forward. What feels like a big shot to your nervous system, what feels like a destruction and death to your ego and your emotions and your psychology, is actually what's needed to become a better version of yourself. But as I mentioned, this requires you use your rational, logical brain to assess the situation you're in and be like, okay, this situation, whatever it is, doesn't directly threaten my life. And it's much easier said than done to use your rational, logical brain when in these situations. We as humans often resort to emotional thinking. We allow our emotions to dictate all of our actions, and that's honestly not an effective way to go about life. I'm not saying you should repress your emotions or ignore them, but in situations where limiting beliefs and negative self-talk and imposter syndrome is coming into your mind, then it's best to, go against your emotions and think logically. So there are 3 mental models that I use whenever I begin to experience some sort of limiting beliefs or imposter syndrome. All 3 of them work, and they work fast. The first one, what is this feeling protecting me from? What you'll find almost every single time is that the things that this feeling, this idea of imposter syndrome is trying to protect you from aren't all that big to begin with. Maybe it's embarrassment, maybe it's being wrong, maybe it's getting rejected. Ultimately, these things feel so big, they feel like the end of the world, but once we experience them, it's like, all right, well, it's over. I experienced the negativity. That's it. We suffer much more in imagination than what we do in reality. And once you can rationally or logically ask yourself this question and answer out all the things that you think your imposter syndrome is trying to protect you from, then it makes boldly taking action feel seamless. And keep in mind, once you name the feeling that imposter syndrome is trying to protect you from, you strip the power from it. It goes from this vague, potentially overwhelming concern to just a very minuscule thing. The second mental model is what I like to call the evidence test. It's super powerful, and all you gotta do is ask yourself these 2 questions. What's the actual evidence I'm not capable? And what's the evidence that I am? Write 2 lists down, one column and the other. And what you'll learn is that when filling out the list of reasons why you're not capable of completing whatever that task is, they're all hypothetical, emotional scenarios. And when filling out the list of all the reasons why you are capable of doing whatever that task is, you'll have legitimate receipts of things that you've done. You'll have proof. You'll say, okay, well, I have this skill and I accomplished this task at this date, which is kind of similar to what I gotta do now, and it'll all make logical sense. One list has feelings and hypothetical situations, but the other has facts and reasons why you are capable. This list with the facts, it has the real results, real moments you showed up, real moments where you got done what needs to get done and you did it boldly. Remember, evidence does not lie, but your feelings do, so choose wisely. The third mental model is what I like to call the growth tax. And you can ask yourself this: is this discomfort a sign I'm in danger or a sign I'm growing? Because as I mentioned, oftentimes imposter syndrome pops up when we're about to do things that are a little beyond our comfort zone. And since the modern world is much more comfortable and safe than before, you're usually not in danger. It's simply a sign that you're growing. Keep in mind that discomfort is the price of growth. If you never experience it, if you never do things that are a little out of your comfort zone, then you stay the same. Nothing changes. And if you can logically accept the fact that any form of discomfort you're facing in these situations is a signal, not a threat, then your anxiety reduces completely. And you can know that any feelings of imposter syndrome don't matter. They don't mean a damn thing. And accepting this is so important for gaining clarity and acting with that calm confidence that's so important for peak performance. Look, unless you're a sociopath or a complete narcissist, then imposter syndrome is something that you've experienced before. And it's probably something that you'll experience again. Just keep in mind that imposter syndrome in these modern days means that you're doing something that's meant to help you grow. You're attempting something that deeply matters. And that discomfort you're facing, you can use it as a signal. It's your brain telling you, yeah, we care, and we're stepping into something big. So next time it shows up, use one of these 3 mental models. Name what it's protecting you from. Test the evidence. Ask if the discomfort is danger or growth. Don't let this ancient survival mechanism hold you back. Just think logically, be rational, and take action. You've got this. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more. And if you know somebody who's been dealing with imposter syndrome, somebody who has a lot of limiting beliefs that are really seeming to hold them back, then share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.